Continuing, at such meetings, everyone, the learned and the foolish, the rich and the poor, the Hindus and the Muslims, the Englishmen and the Indians, and the Chandalas and the Brahmanas can all hear the transcendental sounds and thus cleanse the dust of material association from the mirror of the heart. Now, there are a couple of points to be noted here. First of all, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so powerful that for all practical purposes, uh, amongst those who take up offenseless chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, the backgrounds don't matter that much. They hardly matter. In fact, if two aspiring Vaishnavas take to offenseless chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then their backgrounds don't matter at all. And therefore, they can be together and they can follow the four regulative principles, avoid the 10 offenses, and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and engage in service to Krishna. And the holy name will have equal effect on all of them. One should not discriminate amongst aspiring Vaishnavas who have taken to pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord with the desire to attain full love for His lotus feet. This is a point that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu often emphasized, and here you find evidence from Antilila chapter 4, text 66. Neech jati nahe Krishna bhajane ayogya, satkul vipra nahe bhajaner yogya. A person born in a low family is not unfit for discharging devotional service to Lord Krishna, nor is one fit for devotional service simply because he is born in an aristocratic family of Brahmanas. Jai bhaje se bado bhaktahin chhar, Krishna bhajane nahi jati kuladi vichar. Anyone who takes to devotional service is exalted, whereas a non-devotee is always condemned and abominable. Therefore, in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord, there is no consideration of the status of one's family. Diner adhika daya kore bhagavan, kulin pandit dhanir bado abhiman. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is always favorable to the humble and meek, but aristocrats, learned scholars and the wealthy are always proud of their positions. And then as an evidence for this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Sanatana Goswami at Jagannath Puri. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vipra dvi shad guna yuta daravinda nabha padaravinda vimukha shvapasham varishtham manye tadarpita mano vachane hitartha pranam punati sakulam natu bhuri manaha. One may be born in a Brahmin family and have all 12 Brahmanical qualities, but if in spite of being thus qualified, he is not devoted to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who has a navel shaped like a lotus, he is not as good as a Chandala who has dedicated his mind, words, activities, wealth and life to the service of the Lord. Simply to take birth in a Brahmin family or to have Brahmanical qualities is not sufficient. One must be a pure devotee of the Lord. Thus, if a Shvapacha or Chandala is a devotee, he delivers not only himself but his entire family as well, whereas a Brahman who is not a devotee but simply has Brahmanical qualifications cannot even purify himself, what to speak of his family. This is stated in the 7th canto. The important point to note is, even if one is a qualified Brahmana, he is not considered factually fit for pure devotional service unless he accepts the process of pure devotional service. So therefore, it doesn't matter for anyone who is taking to pure devotional service. It doesn't matter. In the immature stage, while we are Kanishtha-adhikaris, we may be overwhelmed with various distractions. But when we take guidance from the Uttamadhikaris and Madhyamadhikaris through their Vani or Vapu, then we can tangibly become fixed in pure devotional service to Krishna through offenseless chanting of His names. Cleanse the dust of material association from the mirror of the heart. This is an obvious reference to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement, Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has compared the mind, the heart refers to the mind. He has compared it to a mirror. And when the mirror is cleansed from the dust of lust, anger, greed, then that is called purification of heart, anartha nivritti, hrid vishuddhi, absolute purification of the heart. To confirm the Lord's mission, all the people of the world will accept the holy name of the Lord as the common platform for the universal religion of mankind. So chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is a common platform for the unification of human society. And this is a distinctive teaching of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, it is not at all surprising that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is the original teacher of the Bhagavatam to Lord Brahma, would propagate this from the very moment of his appearance. In other words, the advent of the holy name took place along with the advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the Lord was on the lap of his mother, he would at once stop crying as soon as the ladies surrounding him chanted the holy names and clapped their hands. This peculiar incident was observed by the neighbors with awe and veneration. Sometimes the young girls took pleasure in making the Lord cry and then stopping him by chanting the holy name. So from his very childhood, the Lord began to preach the importance of the holy name. This is a very important aspect of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. If we look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, just to give you a sample, look at the last chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Final Canto, and look at the last verse. This is the last verse. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanastam Namami Harim Param. Notice this, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hare, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom relieves all material suffering. So, Nama Sankirtana has been specifically promoted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came to preach the Srimad Bhagavatam, naturally began to preach the importance of chanting Krishna's names from his birth and even in his childhood. In his early age, Lord Sri Chaitanya was known as Nimai. This name was given by his beloved mother because the Lord took his birth beneath a nimba tree in the courtyard of his paternal house. In Bengali, nimba is called neem. In India, it's commonly referred to as neem. And because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born under such a neem tree, that tree can be seen at the Yoga Peeth in Mayapur. If you go, you can have a look at it. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was known as Nimai. Here is a photograph of that particular neem tree, the sacred tree. I located it through Google image search. Very beautiful tree. If you come to Mayapur, you must offer obeisances to this holy neem tree. Alright. When the Lord was offered solid food at the age of 6 months in the Annaprashana ceremony, the Lord indicated his future activities. At this time, it was customary to offer the child both coins and books in order to get some indication of the future tendencies of the child. The Lord was offered on one side coins and on the other the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Lord accepted the Bhagavatam instead of the coins. So from this, it was very clear that the Supreme Lord is going to preach the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam in his Brahmanical incarnation. When he was a mere baby crawling in the yard, one day a snake appeared before him, and the Lord began to play with it. All the members of the house were struck with fear and awe, but after a little while, the snake went away and the baby was taken away by his mother. This snake is Anantashesh. Once he was stolen by a thief who intended to steal his ornaments, but the Lord took a pleasure trip on the shoulder of the bewildered thief who was searching for a solitary place in order to rob the baby. It so happened that the thief, wandering hither and thither, finally arrived just before the house of Jagannath Mishra, and being afraid of being caught, dropped the baby at once. Of course, the ancient parents and relatives were glad to see the lost child. If we try to cheat Krishna, Krishna will cheat us 10 times more. Once a pilgrim Brahmana was received at the house of Jagannath Mishra, and when he was offering food to the Godhead, the Lord appeared before him and partook of the prepared food. The eatables had to be rejected because the child touched them, and so the Brahmana had to make another preparation. This Brahmana was a devotee of the original personality of Godhead in his Gopal form. baby child Gopal. So he would invoke the Lord's presence in his mind by offering prayers, and he would beg, "My master, my Lord, please accept this offering. Please come and accept it." So Nimai, he is that Gopal. So Nimai, he appeared and took that. However, the Brahman, being covered by Yogamaya, thought that this is just an ordinary child, and so he said, "I cannot offer this to the deity." So the Brahmana had to make another preparation. The next time, the same thing happened. Again, he did that. He invoked the Supreme Lord Gopal in his mind by offering prayers, and he begged, "Please accept this food." And right at that time, child Nimai is coming and eating it. And when this happened repeatedly for the third time, the baby was finally put to bed. At about 12 at night, when all the members of the house were fast asleep within their closed rooms, the pilgrim Brahmana offered specially prepared foods to the deity. And in the same way, the baby Lord appeared before the pilgrim and spoiled his offerings. The Brahmana began to cry, but since everyone was fast asleep, no one could hear him. At that time, the baby Lord appeared before the fortunate Brahmana and disclosed his identity as Krishna himself. The Brahmana was forbidden to disclose this incident, and the baby returned to the lap of his mother. This is beautifully described in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. There are many similar incidents in his childhood. As a naughty boy, he sometimes used to tease the orthodox Brahmanas who used to bathe in the Ganges. When the Brahmanas complained to his father that he was splashing them with water instead of attending school, the Lord suddenly appeared before his father as though just coming from school with all his school clothes and books. At the bathing ghat, he also used to play jokes on the neighboring girls who engaged in worshipping Shiva in hopes of getting good husbands. This is a common practice amongst unmarried girls in Hindu families. This is discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita. While they were engaged in such worship, the Lord naughtily appeared before them and said, "My dear sisters, please give me all the offerings you have just brought for Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is my devotee, and Parvati is my maid servant. If you worship me, then Lord Shiva and all the other demigods will be more satisfied." Some of them refused to obey the naughty Lord, and he would curse them. Of course, this is just a play. That, due to their refusal, they would be married to old men who had 7 children by their previous wives. Out of fear and sometimes out of love, the girls would also offer him various goods, and then the Lord would bless them and assure them that they would have very good young husbands and that they would be mothers of dozens of children. The blessings would enliven the girls, but they used often to complain of these incidents to their mothers. So Nimai Pandit, later on the child became known as Nimai Pandit, and he would play with his sisters like this. In this way, the Lord passed his early childhood. When he was just 16 years old, he started his own Chatushpathi, a village school conducted by a learned Brahmana. In the school, he would simply explain Krishna, even in readings of grammar. Srila Jiva Goswami, in order to please the Lord, later composed a grammar in Sanskrit in which all the rules of grammar were explained with examples that used the holy names of the Lord. This is a very, very beautiful Sanskrit grammar textbook called Sri Harinamamrita Vyakaranam, a Sanskrit grammar text which contains the nectarian holy names of Lord Hari. I have a desire to ensure that this is presented to the followers of Srila Prabhupada, so that even while they are learning Sanskrit, instead of talking about vowels and consonants, they would be talking about Sarveshwara and Vishnu Janas. Instead of talking about masculine gender, feminine gender, and neuter gender, they would be talking about Purushottama gender, Lakshmi gender, and Brahman gender. And in that way, Jiva Goswami has ensured that even to understand the rules of Sanskrit grammar, you are constantly using Krishna's names. This is authorized in the Srimad Bhagavatam. One can chant Krishna's names even to indicate things other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead.